Welcome back. Today we're diving into the first of the foundational concept of a series of videos that I'm going to be doing on a number of books that I've been reading over the last month or so. And these ideas have come from the following books: Dan Sullivan's groundbreaking book, The Gap and the Gain, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and The Winning Mindset by David Niethe. If you've ever felt stuck or like you're not making progress in your life, today's episode is going to change the way you look at yourself and your life. By the end of this episode, you'll have practical tools to help you and stop beating yourself up and start celebrating the wins. You've got to really celebrate those small wins, right? So today we're going to dive into a transformative journey, an idea that could change how you see your life, rather being in the gap, but being in the gain, but also how to be present in this current moment and not looking too far forward and having a mindset that's going to help you win. This concept from Dan Sullivan about the gap and the gain is all about learning to measure your progress in a way that builds confidence in yourself and having gratitude and having joy in your life. But that's not all. We also weave a powerful insights from Eckhart Tolle, from The Power of Now, and David Niethe from The Winning Mindset to help you stay focused and more resilient and be motivated in the face of the fear and of challenges. So by the end of today, you'll have practical tools to stop comparing yourself with everyone else and to unrealistic standards of living as you champion you, because you are a champion in your life, right? So let's look at what the gap is. Why does the gap hold us back? So the gap is when you measure your progress by looking at where you should be instead of where you've come from. So we often look at set our goals in the future, which is fine, but if we're constantly measuring ourselves to the future, which hasn't even happened yet, then we're going to set ourselves up for failure, right? Failure is not a bad thing. You're going to learn from those. But the thing is, rather than making progress, you're going to have a lot of stop starts. So it's that voice in your head that's saying, I'm not good enough, or I haven't achieved enough. Does that sound familiar to you? Most of us live here. Most of us have been here. And I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I've found it really exhausting. It's really exhausting when you're constantly beating yourself up and going, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to get there, and that kind of stuff, right? And what happens is that when you say these words to yourself, when you say this language to yourself, what happens is that your mind believes it. Your mind doesn't know the difference between real or imaginary. It doesn't know the difference between past or future. It only knows about the present moment. So whatever you say, whatever language in the present moment is going to be what happens in your life, what evolves. We're also going to look at in the book, The Winning Mindset by David Niethe. He describes this as the mental loop of inadequacy. He explains that we constantly compare ourselves to others or to impossible standards. We reinforce those feelings of failure and frustration and overwhelm. The brain literally creates pathways and keeps us stuck in this negativity. So, as I said before, the brain will believe everything you give it. It will believe everything you say to yourself and that you think and that you feel, right? Your present reality, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this, is that your present reality is based on your personality, and your personality is based on your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. And so if your thoughts are of negative or self-sabotage, and that I'm not good enough, I can't do this, and why does this keep happening to me, then that's what you're going to feel, and the actions are also going to be congruent to whatever your whatever you're thinking and you're feeling, right? Because your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions create your current reality. So picture a student who's getting 85% on an exam, and it's a really tough exam, and he or she is getting 85%. And to that person, it feels like it's failure because they didn't get the 90%, right? We're always trying to be better than who we are. But the thing is, the key is it's not about what's happening in the future. It's what's happening right now in this present moment, right? And if you only look back and go, look how far I've come, then that's all you've got to worry about. Or imagine someone who's running a race and they're crossing the finish line and they're thinking, I could have been faster. This this is the gap at work. It robs you of your joy and progress. Now, I remember when I was running, I've had times like this, but I remember my very first race, and this was back in 2018 when I decided to go and run a 10K run, and I'd never run in my life before. And I said, I'm going to do this run in 1 hour, 10 minutes. And 2 months later, I did it in 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 10 seconds. Now, when I went on my first practice run, what happened? It took me 1 hour, 26 minutes. Then I did my second practice run and I went 1 hour, 17 minutes. And I went, wow, I'm improving. So I only had to look back one weekend or something and go, well, the last time I ran, I was 1 hour 26. And now I'm 1 hour 17. So if I keep going the way I'm going, I'm possibly going to reach my goal. And on the day of the race, I got to, for anyone who lives in Auckland, near Devonport area, Torpedo Bay um, is where the Navy Museum is. And I got to that point and I looked at my watch and I went, my goodness, I can do this. And I just focused and I just pushed myself and I did it. I did it in 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 10 seconds. So remember, if you're constantly focusing on the gap and you're focusing on what you haven't achieved and what your shortcomings are, then you're going to keep letting yourself down, and you're also going to keep beating yourself up, and then you're going to lose motivation. So the key is to stay focused and focus on the gains that you've got. You know, no one goes from 0 to 100 in 1 second. For human beings, it takes consistent repetition and action to be able to get to where they want, what their end goal is. So life is a journey. The destination is not the next step. The destination is far away. So you've got to go on the journey, and you've just got to trust that if you keep going and if you keep believing in yourself and you keep doing the little things, then that's going to create a compounding effect. You only need to be 1% better than yesterday, and you're well on your way to achieving things. Now let's look at what the gain is. So how can the gain transform your life? The gain is when you measure your progress by looking at how far you've come. And that's what I was saying before, is that if we look at how far you've come rather than how far you still have to go, then it's going to build motivation. You're going to feel more congruent with yourself rather than sort of, feeling like you're just failing all the time and you're not getting anywhere. This shift in perspective is life-changing because it trains your brain to focus on achievements rather than the deficits. Now, David Niethe calls this the positive programming. By celebrating small wins, you're rewiring your brain to see yourself capable, resilient, and resourceful. Now, if you don't know who David Niethe is a New Zealander. He's an Aucklander. He is the author of a book called The Winning Mindset. And I'm so grateful that tomorrow morning I get to go and have breakfast with him and have a chat with him. So I just reached out to him and said, I'd love to have you on my podcast. And I would love to come and meet with you. And he's trained, he's coached, he's a performance, he's a mental peak performance coach and one of New Zealand's top coaches and also one of the top coaches around the world. And he's trained some amazing people like Lydia Ko and some other names in like kickboxing and boxing and so on, and even in golf. So by celebrating the small wins, you are rewiring your brain to see yourself as capable, resilient, and resourceful. Research supports that this kind of thinking and celebrating your wins and acknowledging even small progress increases your motivation and helps you stay consistent with your goals. So imagine you're trying to lose weight. And instead of obsessing over how far your goal is, what if you just focused on the fact that you already lost 5 pounds, right? 5 pounds, you got to win. That's a win. You've got to celebrate that. And that is progress. And that's a gain. And by celebrating that, you will build confidence and motivation to keep going on that journey. Now, here's a practical tip. Here's a challenge for you. Every evening, what I'd love for you to do is every evening write down 3 things that you did today on that day, right? That you accomplished on that day. 3 things that you accomplished on that day. Write them down before you go to bed. They don't have to be a big thing. Maybe you just went for a walk, maybe you had a meaningful conversation with someone, or maybe you tackled a task that you've been avoiding for ages. By focusing on your gains, you will start to feel more empowered and less overwhelmed. And so, what we were talking about before is about staying in the present moment and really focusing on how far you've come, right? Now, how does the present or the present moment bridge the gap to the gain? So, how do we shift from gap to gain? Well, the word present or presence, Eckhart Tolle says in The Power of Now, he teaches that the present moment is the only place where we live, where life actually happens. The past is gone, the future hasn't arrived yet. The present moment is all we have, right? The past was a present moment, today is a present moment, and the future will be a present moment. But all we have today in our reality is the present moment. So when we're stuck in the gap, we're either replaying the past regrets or we're worrying about the future. So neither of those things are going to exist, right, in the now. Because, like I said before, the past is gone. The future has not arrived. All you have is this present moment. David Niethe takes this further and says, uses a technique called reframing. He suggests that asking yourself, what is one thing I've gained from this moment? And I'll say that again. What is one thing I've gained from this moment? This question immediately brings you back to the present moment and helps you see opportunities instead of obstacles. So here's another exercise. Right now, take a deep breath in and count for 4 and hold that breath in. Hold it in for maybe 2 or 3 seconds. Now you want your out breath to be at least 6 seconds long. So let that out. Look around you. What's one thing that you can appreciate in this present moment? Maybe it's the fact that you're learning something new, or simply that you have shown up for yourself by listening to this podcast episode. And that's again because you're learning something new. Every time I pick up a book like The Gap and the Gain, like The Winning Mindset, or like The Power of Now, I've learned something that I was struggling with, and it's taught me to learn some new skills. Now, I'm a big believer in listening to David Neath, he's the same, is that we've got to be lifelong learners, right? We've got to be continuously learning, whether you're reading a book, whether you're listening to a podcast, um, whether you're doing a course. Always keep learning. Don't don't stop learning, because the more you keep learning, as challenges pop up, you're going to be able to go through them and be able to get past them. You know, when you have a hurdle, you jump over it. When you are driving your car and you come to a speed bump, you don't just stop and go, "Oh, I can't do this." You drive over it, right? Only way is through the problem. So, whatever problem or whatever thing is going on in your life today, I encourage you to to start reframing your thoughts, and instead of living in the gap, which is I don't I can't do this, or I'm not good enough to do this, or I haven't I could have done this better. Actually appreciate what you have done, and then celebrate that, and be in the gain. Now, here's an example. I messaged my girlfriend today, and she said to me, "What have you been doing today? Have you had a good day?" And I said, "Oh, I had a lazy morning. I read the Winning Mindset book. I watched some videos with David Niethe, and then I prepared for this podcast. And I did my lawns. Went for a walk. I cleaned the fish tank, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I've actually done quite a bit. Even though I felt like I hadn't done enough, I actually had a productive day, right? So unless you've been sitting on the couch playing games or watching TV all day, you know, every little thing that you do is actually contributing to that 1% better, so that you can be 365% better by the end of the year. So I encourage you to pick up a book. And if you haven't already read these books, The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and The Winning Mindset by David Niethe. So your challenge this week is simple. Notice when you're going into the gap. Be mindful, be conscious of when you feel that you're going into the gap. If you feel that you're starting to ruminate on negative self-talk, your languaging is not serving you, that's in the gap. Look at what you've achieved, right? When you catch yourself comparing yourself or feeling inadequate, pause and ask yourself, what is one gain I can focus on? What is one thing that I did today that I'm really proud of and that I can focus on? Write it down. Celebrate it. Do a little dance. Run up and down the street. Whatever makes you feel good. Celebrate it. And don't forget that life isn't a competition. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You only need to compare yourself to the person you were yesterday. And it's about progress, not perfection. There's so many people in this world that are just trying to be perfectionists, and they're going, "Oh, well, I'll do this when I've done this." Or that just tells me that they're procrastinating. And why are they procrastinating? Because maybe they've got some fear. And the only way to get through that is to feel the fear and do it anyway. And as and David Nietzsche says, but also Carl Jung said, is that if you're feeling fear, then you need to lean in. That's where your task is, right? Your task is to feel through that fear and overcome that fear. And so I encourage you, if you've watched this episode, you've got some insights out of this, I encourage you to share this episode with your friends, your family, your workmates, or anyone who can benefit from this. And I just want to encourage you that you are not on your own. There are amazing people around you. And if you are struggling, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to guide you on your path and your journey in life. And you are a champion. You're destined for greatness. You are loved and you're worthy. And so I close off today. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya, and I'm so grateful that you've watched or listened to this episode. And please, please share this with someone. And please subscribe to this podcast or follow it so that you don't miss any future episodes. And also, it helps me get this podcast out to the wider world. So, as I said before, focus on one gain and also write it down, celebrate it, and don't forget life is not a competition. And remember to write down 3 things every night before you go to sleep, because what that does is it tells your subconscious mind that you achieved some things, and the subconscious mind will store that in the memory banks. And the next time you feel fear or anxiety, the subconscious mind has been reprogrammed to support you, right? So the key is that if we reprogram our mind to take on more positive and more thoughts that are going to serve us, right? That are going to service us, that are going to help us, then so that the stories we're telling ourselves are positive and are building us up, then what's going to happen is that your subconscious mind is going to support you on that. The more negative and the more self-sabotaging language that we speak, your subconscious mind will store that. And the next time you go through a challenge, it will go, hey, remember last time? You can't do this, right? So I really encourage you to start speaking good about yourself. Start believing in yourself. Start backing yourself, right? I've been doing this podcast for just over a year now, and I never thought that I would get this far, because most people that start a podcast give up after 7 episodes, right? A large percentage, 90-something% of people give up after 7 episodes because they realize how much work goes on and it gets overwhelming for them. So the key is to stay consistent. The key is to keep taking steps, one step ahead, right? And if you're looking back, just look at how far you've come, but keep looking forward and keep moving forward. And champion your life, champion your greatness. Have an amazing day.